Good morning. Welcome to Daily Devotions on this Wednesday. So, yesterday I ended with a verse from Romans, the 8th chapter, verse 28. We know that all things work together for good for those who love God, who are called according to his purpose. And I tied that into hope and our hope that we can trust God is working in and through all things, not doing things to us that are bad, but working in and through all of those things to emerge the best possible outcome and God's presence, God's revealing of God's grace in that space. I want to read the rest of that today and use that to guide our day because I think in this Advent time, talking about hope, waiting for Christmas, waiting for whatever we're waiting for, a vaccine, for school break, for whatever's going on. I think Romans 8:18 is spot on for our life. So I'm gonna read it, and you can listen, and then we'll talk. Romans 8, starting at the 18th verse. I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory about to be revealed in us to us. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the children of God. For the creation was subjected to futility not of its own will, but by the will of the one who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to decay, and will obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. We know that the whole creation has been groaning in labor pains until now. And not only the creation, but we ourselves who have the first fruits of the Spirit groan inwardly while we wait for adoption, the redemption of our bodies. For in hope we were saved. Now, hope that is seen is not hope. For who hopes for what's seen? But if we hope for what we don't see, we wait for it with patience. Likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we don't know how to pray as we ought. But that very Spirit intercedes with sighs too deep for words, and God, who searches the heart and knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. We know that all things work together for good for those who love God, who are called according to his purpose. And then it goes on. For those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, in order that he might be the firstborn within a large family. And those whom he predestined, he called, and those whom he called, he also justified, and those whom he justified, he also glorified. It's a beautiful piece in Romans. It's one of my favorite selections in Scripture because it proclaims that God is in all things, through all things, working amongst all things. And when we're unable to see it or experience it apart from ourselves, God's still working. The Spirit intercedes and helps us in our weakness. And that's so beautiful as we try to cling to hope, because it's just frankly easier said than done. I know I shared the story of driving in and dropping my kids off at school and how that affects me and how I have a choice of how to look. I don't always choose to look with eyes of hope and grace. Sometimes I'm just angry, right? I just see all these people aggravating me, and then I get aggravated. And that's just part of sin in our lives, is choosing that wrong direction of our heart. And Paul's here in Romans just proclaiming that these sufferings of the present time, I mean, our glory is going to be so great, and God's presence is so wonderful, and God's work is so incomprehensible that we can't even compare it to what's going on. And what Paul's actually wanting us to do is to compare it, to say, look, we know that we have this incomprehensible God that we understand through the life, love, suffering, and death of Jesus Christ. And so we can see the world in a different way. And in that way, while we look around and we groan and life's hard and our bodies suffer and our spirits hurt, that we're saved already. In hope, we were saved. And so we have this thing to look forward to out there that we trust in from the past work of Christ back there on the cross and in resurrection. And so we hope, even though we can't see it, and we wait then for that to come, trusting that all things are working together for good. Dear friends, this day may you see Christ in the details, in the spaces between the events that happen to you, in the spaces of your thoughts, and know that God's there, that you are loved, and that hope lives. I pray that you see that this day.